Hello everyone, you're welcome to my channel Promotion for Sure. In this video, we are going to talk about the summary video of Business Mathematics, the entire module of CAIIB Advanced Bank Management course. It's Module B. You can get a copy of this important PPT from the link which I have mentioned in the description box below. This will be very comprehensive and will help you for quick revision. So let's talk about time value of money. Now, money has time value. This is based on the concept of erosion in value of time, erosion in value of money due to inflation, hence the need to convert it to a present value. Now, other reasons for need to reach present value is for desire for immediate consumption rather than wait for the future. The greater the risk in the future, the greater the erosion. Now, extent of erosion in the value of money is an unknown factor, hence a well thought out discount rate helps to bring out the future cash flows to the present. Now, this helps to decide on the type of investment, extent of investment, and so on. All three factors that contribute to the erosion in value of money have an inverse relationship with the value of money. The greater the factor, the lower is the value of money. So, if desire for current consumption is greater than what we need to offer, incentive to defer the consumption. The money thus saved is then profitably or gainfully employed. Hence, the discount rate will be lower. Investment in government bonds or securities is less risky than in the private sector simply because not all cash flows are equally predictable, and where there is sovereign guarantee, the risk is less. So, if the risk of return is lower as in government securities, then the rate of return is also lower. So the process by which future flows are adjusted to reflect these factors is called discounting, and the magnitude is reflected in the discount rate. The discount varies directly with each of these factors. The discount of the future flows to the present is done with the need to know the efficacy of the investment. Now the discounting brings the flow to a net present value or NPV. NPV is the net of the present value of the future cash flows and the initial investment. If NPV is positive, then we accept the investment and vice versa. If two investments are to be compared, then the investment with higher NPV is selected. The discounted rates for each are the risk rates associated with investments. Now, real cash flows are nominal cash flows adjusted to inflation. Nominal cash flows are received while real cash flows are notional figures. Real cash flow is equal to nominal cash flow divided by 1 minus inflation rate. Now, there are 5 types of cash flow: simple cash flow, annuity, increasing annuity, perpetuity, and growing perpetuity. The future cash flows are converted to the present by a factor known as discount. The discount rate is adjusted to the inflation for its real rate. This real rate is an inflation adjusted rate. Now, discounting is inverse of compounding. This is the formula where you can pause the video and you can write it down for future reference. Now, annuity is a constant cash flow at regular intervals for a fixed period of time. So, as we have already spoken about, there are 4 types of annuities. So, annuity due is at the end of the period. This is the formula. Annuity due is in the beginning of the period. Okay. For perpetuity, perpetuity is a constant cash flow at regular intervals forever. It is annuity of infinite duration. So perpetuity, when if someone asks you what is perpetuity, it is a constant cash flow at regular intervals forever. So present value of perpetuity, A is A divided by R. Present value of perpetuity is A divided by R minus G if perpetuity is growing at G. Rule of 72, dividing 72 by the interest rate gives the number of years in which the principal doubles. Now a sample is a representative proportion of the population. There are 2 types of sampling: random or probability sampling, non-random or judgment sampling. In judgment sampling, knowledge and opinion are used. In this kind of sampling, biasness can creep in. For example, in interviewing teachers asking the opinion about their pay rise. Now, four methods of sampling. Simple random. You use a random table. Assign digits to each element of the population. Use a method of selecting the digits, and from the table you select the sample. So the chance of number appearing is same for all. Now, systematic sampling, the elements of the sample are selected at a uniform interval measured in terms of time, space, or order. An error may take place if the elements in the population are sequential or there is certainty of happening. Now, stratified sampling, you divide the population into homogeneous groups. From each group, you select an equal number of elements and give weights to the groups or strata according to the proportion of the sample. Or you select a random you select at random a specified number of elements from each strata corresponding to its proportion to the population. Each stratum has very little difference within but considerable difference without. Cluster sampling is you divide the population into groups which are clusters. Now you pick a random sample from each cluster. Each cluster has considerable difference but similar without. So whether we use probability or judgment sampling, the process is based on simple random sampling. Now examples of types of sampling. Systematic sampling, a school where one picks every 15 students. Stratified sampling, in large organization, people are grouped according to the range of salaries. Cluster sampling, a city is divided into localities. Now since we would be using the concept of standard deviation, let us understand its significance. Now standard deviation, it is a measure of dispersion. General formula of standard deviation is given there, where x is observation, nu is population mean, and n is number of elements in the population. Now, despite all the complexities in the formula, the standard deviation is the same in state as summation of differences between the elements and their mean. It is a reliable measure of variability. It is used when there is need to measure correlation coefficient, significance of difference between means. Now, it is used when a mean value is available. It is used when the distribution is normal or near normal. Now, these are some of the important formulas. It is important to remember that each sample has different mean and hence different standard deviation. A probability distribution of sample mean is called sampling distribution of the mean. The same principle applies to a sample of proportions. A standard deviation of the distribution of sample means is called standard error of the mean. The standard error indicates the size of the chance error but also the accuracy if we use the sample statistic to estimate the population statistic. So these are terminologies. These are important formulas. You can write it down. Okay. Central limit theorem. Now, this is the relationship between the shape of population distribution and the sampling distribution. It is called central limit theorem. As sample size increases, the sampling distribution of the men will approach normality regardless of the population distribution. Now, sample size need not be larger for the mean to approach normal. Uh, we can make inferences about the population parameters without knowing anything about the shape of the frequency distribution of the population. Take this example. Now, regression and correlation help to determine the nature and strength of relationship between two variables. If the known variable is called the independent variable, whereas the variable we are trying to predict is called dependent variable. This attempt at prediction is called regression analysis, whereas correlation tells the extent of relation. The values of two variables are plotted on a graph with x as independent variable and points would be scattered. You need to draw the points such that an equal number lie on the either side of the line. Okay. These are the formulas. You can write it down. Covariance measure the strength and direction of the relationship. Coefficient of correlationship, it is the measure of dimensionless strength and direction of the relationship. Now, types of time series variation. Secular trend, in which there is fluctuation but steady increase in the trend over a large period of time. Cyclical fluctuation, in a business cycle that sees ups and downs over a period of few years They may not be a regular pattern, seasonal variation, which is see regular changes during a year, irregular variations due to unforeseen circumstances. In trend analysis, we have to fit a linear trend by least square method. To ease the computation, we use the coding method where we assign numbers to the years of, for example. Then we calculate the values of constants A and B in the equation and then use equation for forecasting. Now, study of secular trend helps to describe a historical pattern, use past trends to predict the future, and eliminate trend component, which makes it easier to study the other three components. Seasonal variation is eliminated by moving average method. You can find average of 4 quarters, divide each value by 4, find average of such values for quarters by sliding method. Okay. Probability distribution. This chapter is on methods of estimation population. There are two types of estimate: point estimate, which is a single number to estimate an unknown population parameter. It is insufficient in the sense it does not know the extent of wrong. Interval estimate, it is a range of values used to estimate a population parameter. Error is indicated by the extent of its range and by the probability of the true population lying within that range. Estimator is a sample statistic used to estimate a population parameter. Consistency, sufficiency, confidence interval is the range of the estimate, while confidence level is the probability that we associate with the interval estimate of the population parameter. Okay. Now, bonds are the long-term loans with promise of series of fixed interest payments and repayment of principal. The interest payment on bond is called coupon rate. Coupon rate, they are issued at discount and repaid at par. Now, bond prices are linked with interest rate in the market. If the interest rate rise, the bond prices fall, and vice versa. Now, the present value of bond can also be calculated using the discount factor for coupons as well as the final payment of the face value. Some important standard measures: current yield, it is the return on the present market. The market price of a bond is the coupon income divided by current price into 100. Now, rate of return, it is the rate of return on your investment. Okay. Yield to maturity, this measures takes into account the current yield and change in bond value over its life. It is the discount rate at which the present value of coupon income and final payment at face value is equal to current price. Now, if the yield to maturity remains unchanged, then the rate of return, if the interest rate do not change, the bond price change with time. There are two types of risk in bond investment: interest rate risk, where the bond prices change. Inversely, interest rate risk, also the larger maturity period of a bond, greater is the sensitivity to price. Default risk, which is true with private bonds. Now, different types of bonds: zero coupon bond, floating rate bond, convertible bond, bond on call. Okay, you can go through these important points. Now, in linear programming problem, the constraints are in the form of inequalities. Now, simulation is a technique where model of problem without getting into reality is made to know the end result. Simulation is ideal for situation where size or complexity of the situation does not permit use of any other method. In short, simulation is replica of reality. So, example of problem situation for simulation are air traffic queuing, rail operation, assembly line system, and so on. And if you have reached at the end of this video, be rest assured that you have reached a channel that will give you a similar treasure of knowledge. That's a promise, so please subscribe and become a lifetime learner. Thank you.